We're going to be going over connecting your e-commerce platform with Acumatica. And today you have myself, Nicole Ronchetti with DSD Business Systems. I'm also the acu-connect president, and my coworker, Chris Joco. So we're going to keep this as a loose sort of webinar. We're going to talk about some of the, I guess I can go on to the agenda. Sorry about that. We're going to review some of the top questions asked about integrating the omni-channel with Acumatica, and we'll also talk a little bit about the whole retail commerce. And Chris is going to try to show you guys some of that while we're on this, and then we'll have some additional Q&A. So most certainly, like any questions that anyone has regarding the retail commerce edition of Acumatica, feel free to put them into the chat either throughout the webinar, or we will have a Q&A session at the end in a breakout room, so you can ask things in there as well. So, Chris, did you want to introduce yourself too, or anything else you want to add?
Sure. Thank you, Nicole. My name's Chris Joco. For those of you that don't know me, I am the Principal Solutions Architect for the Acumatica team at DSD. Work with Nicole a lot on a lot of the technical implementations that we have whenever there's development stuff that's involved, or designing systems for different customer types. That's my primary role. I also help out a lot on the sales team to do a lot of proof of concept videos for Acumatica so that everybody can see how Acumatica will work for their particular business. I'm pretty excited today to present here with my cohort in crime at DSD, Nicole, and talking about some of the favorite things that I have that I love to do, which is e-commerce with Acumatica. So let's jump in. What do you think, Nicole? Jump into some of these top questions that we typically get?
Yeah. So I think the first and foremost thing that we should talk about, because I think certain people might not even realize it's its own edition and they might not know what it is. But why don't you talk a little bit about what is the retail commerce edition of Acumatica? I know we have a little bit of a blurb on it on the slide, but there's a little bit more to it than just that blurb, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Retail Commerce Edition of Acumatica is one of the newer editions that they have come out with to really bridge that gap with a lot of these e-commerce type businesses. I mean, nowadays a lot of businesses taking place online. A lot of people are using e-commerce sites like Shopify and BigCommerce and WooCommerce, and even doing selling on Amazon. So Acumatica wanted to come out with a way to give you tools so that you guys can connect your Acumatica system with these best-in-breed e-commerce solutions. So that's kind of the gist of what the Retail Commerce Edition was set out to do for Acumatica customers.
Cool. So what e-commerce solutions does Acumatica build and support? We sometimes use the term out of the box, which is a weird, weird thing considering things don't come in boxes anymore, but Acumatica does build and support their own integrations. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what some of those options are.
Yeah, absolutely. So Acumatica has integration tools native that they build and support specifically for BigCommerce, which is one of the leading e-commerce platforms out there, as well as Shopify, which might be one of the most used platform that's out there today. They're also working currently on a connector for Amazon, right? So they have a lot of things in the pipe, but the two biggest solutions that Acumatica currently builds and supports are the integrations to Shopify and BigCommerce. So do you think it would be a good time to kind of show a little bit about how that works, and then I'll flip it back over to you, Nicole?
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, let me see if I can take over sharing here. One sec.
I'll click on stop sharing.
Yeah, that's okay. I think if I take over, it'll come out here. So let me know once you guys can see. I'm just going to share my entire screen, so make it a little bit easier here. Oh, I'm not getting the button to share. That's kind of weird. It did earlier. Give me 1 second here. Having some technical difficulties. All right, cool. So
That's
should be
me.
sharing. Yeah, you should be able to see yourself now, right?
Way too much, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So just to kind of give you guys a look of what Acumatica's Retail Commerce Edition does, I'm just going to go ahead and log into my demo site here. Like I said, Acumatica connects to both BigCommerce and Shopify out of the box, right? So using my air quotes, out of the box. So we have a new commerce module that is available inside of Acumatica. So if you guys have Shopify or BigCommerce stores, we actually can go into Acumatica and configure us to connect directly through Acumatica. The nice thing that Acumatica's Commerce Edition does is it allows us to sync different entities within the system. So typically when we connect, we will connect to your specific BigCommerce or Shopify store. And then depending on whether you're using BigCommerce or Shopify, you guys will have a list of entities that you can actually maintain and sync within between Acumatica and your e-commerce platform. So for example, here I'm taking a look at, oh, go ahead, sorry.
We see a white screen right now.
Is it not sharing?
I don't see it.
It's saying sharing, but that's not always the case here. Oh, that's what you're seeing, huh?
Yeah.
Oh no, so you see that, right?
And
no,
then
it's just white, Chris. We can't see anything.
Yeah, I know. I know what's wrong. So give me 1 second here. It's because I shared the wrong window. It's what happens when you actually use trying to use this little laptop.
Yeah, and just so our attendees know, Chris lost power right before. So, for those of you who are used to using your big monitors, it throws you for a little bit when you have to use the small laptop on it.
Yep, using a 13, and I'm running off backup power, and I'm running off my cell phone. So I'm a little hampered today, but let me know now if you guys can see. Okay, cool. So kind of just going back to what I was talking about, we added a new commerce module to Acumatica. It gives us the ability, dependent on what connector you want to use, we can connect to BigCommerce and Shopify sites out of the box. And it's not just one site. So with Acumatica, we can manage multiple, whether it's multiple BigCommerce stores or multiple Shopify stores, or even both. If you have both a BigCommerce and a Shopify store, we can actually manage those both in one instance of Acumatica. And what I was talking about earlier is that once we are connected to your e-commerce site, we are actually able to come into the system and map different entities, whether we want to map price classes or the customers. And some of these we can actually even change the direction. Do we want it to be bi-directional? Do we want to only pull customers from the site, or do we want to only send customers from Acumatica to the site? So we actually have a lot of capability here in being able to sync customer information, item information, sales price information, even product image information, as well as product availability information. By being able to do this and having this site integrated, we're able to maintain everything from within Acumatica. Because when we are talking about syncing inventory items, if I came in here and I took a look at my inventory items, we add an e-commerce link. And when we add that e-commerce link, we're able to take a look at, do I want to add multiple images to my web store? Do I want to add video links to my web store? So if I look up my favorite item here is my old school Nikon 7500 camera. So we're going to take a look at this this camera here. And so when we sync Acumatica with BigCommerce, or we sync it with Shopify, we actually can come in here and we will get an e-commerce link where I can dictate all of my meta keywords, all of my meta descriptions, my page titles. What do I want to show for availability? Do I want to make this item featured? Do I want to attach some YouTube clips to this video? And all of this information, and including back on the attributes tab, all of the images that I have for this particular item, all of this information is synced over. So when I go to my BigCommerce store, or if I go to my item, by marking it as featured, this item becomes featured. And then I am looking at, let's take a look at this item. Let's take a quick view. Sorry, I'm just working through the slow clicks here. I'm used to clicking fast and it actually comes up right away. But here, we're able, all of that information that we're storing in Acumatica is going to be pulled over here, including all of our images, our product descriptions, and even that additional, like the YouTube video. So if I continue to scroll down here, you know, all of this information is being fed from Acumatica. So what does this do for you guys as you know, as a business? You are able to have one place where you're managing everything, and you can even dictate which items actually come over to your e-commerce platform. So being able to put this information in here, you know, being able to track all of that in Acumatica, we're able to kind of pull that information and maintain both our Shopify sites and our BigCommerce sites directly from one hub. One more thing I want to show you before I just break off and we go back to kind of our Q&A session here is we can dictate when we want to sync data from Acumatica, so, or from BigCommerce or from Shopify. We essentially do preparation of data. So if I have a sales order that I want to integrate with Acumatica, maybe somebody placed an order on the e-commerce site, I could choose which store. So if I'm looking at my Shopify store, or I'm looking at my BigCommerce store, I can actually choose to sync what I want to sync. And if you guys remember with your Acumatica system, anytime you see the little clock icon, this means I could schedule this particular item to be synced over. So in this case here, if I wanted to just say, you know what, at a specific time, I want to sync sales orders at like once an hour, I can do so. I also have the capability inside of the system to set things at real time. So things like your sales orders and maybe your payments or maybe your shipments, those things would actually get synced in real time. So you don't even have to run this sync. So there's a lot of things in here that we can actually specify to be run on real time or run on a particular schedule. Once you've prepared your data, you literally will just look at processing your data. So when we have a payment that needs to be processed or sales orders that need to be processed, that information can be ran and synced from within the system here. I'm just going to look at my process tab here. And if I have any records that have been processed, essentially all of those orders will ultimately end up in your sales order screen, and then you can process them like you manually entered those particular orders. So just imagine if you guys were taking orders on the web store, we can send things from Shopify in here, and you can see where those orders came from, and you can see what order numbers those are from my Shopify store or from my BigCommerce store. So we're able to track all of this information directly inside of our integration. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Nicole.
Yeah,
And then we'll
and I
keep
think that, that kind of brings up a good point too, because, we talk about these terms like omni-channel, and, you're talking about, like doing both a BigCommerce and Shopify integration. And some people might think like, well, why would I want to integrate both, Shopify and BigCommerce, which kind of leads into, am I sharing a slide?
Not yet, I think.
Oh, there we go. This one, maybe?
Yep, there we go.
Okay, I'm just going to leave it like this so that I don't mess with my computer anymore. So in just talking about, and I might be skipping around on our slides a little bit, but, I think it just kind of brings up a good point about Shopify and BigCommerce. Like, there's a number of different reasons why people might want to do both of these types of things, right? So, something like BigCommerce does have the ability to do like, again, I'm skipping our slides. I'm sorry.
No, you're on the right side.
But BigCommerce does have the ability to do things like B2B. Shopify has the ability to do things like point of sale, right? So there's a number of reasons why people might want to have this omni-channel support, omni-channel sales support and integration, because you might have that retail need on the Shopify point of sale end, or maybe you don't need a Shopify point of sale and you could use Acumatica's point of sale solution. But all of those integrations that we're mentioning are things that are all built and supported by Acumatica. So one of the other things that you brought up was, you mentioned a little bit earlier, was Amazon. And I know many of us heard, those of us who went to Summit heard them mention things like Amazon integration. Where's that Amazon integration at, and what are some options for people as far as integrating with Amazon?
So currently, as it was announced at Acumatica Summit back in January, they are currently working on a integration for Amazon. It is actually available now to select beta customers, so it is being beta tested at the moment. They intend to release it in the fall with the 2022 R2 release in a more, release it to basically to the public. But it, really what it's being done here is using that same integration screens that we looked at a few minutes ago with the BigCommerce and the Shopify. It's very similar that you're going to be able to integrate that as another store. And so if you have Amazon, they are planning to support both FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon. This is where you are going to actually ship your product to Amazon. Amazon's going to sell it on their site. They just basically pay you a commission on that. So basically with FBA orders, we're going to pull those orders in as posted invoices so that you can record those sales. And then from the FBM side, which is fulfilled by merchant, Acumatica is just going to treat those like your e-commerce orders. They're going to pull those orders in just very similarly to how we pull an order in from BigCommerce and Shopify. And then since you are fulfilling that yourself, you will actually work through and fulfill those particular orders. So it's very exciting. I think we have 1 or 2 clients that are in that, in there, and essentially we can look at that, and as that comes out closer
I think
to
one of the really
2022
nice
R2
too about some of these integrations, and because they are kind of all using this like common technology that Acumatica has developed. In the first round it was BigCommerce first, right? And then they added the Shopify. And even with the BigCommerce integration, we've seen that over the past few releases since the first release, like they're continually building out that integration and making it more robust with more options as far as how you're syncing and what you can sync and what you can do. So that's really encouraging too, that all of these, solutions that they've been releasing over the past few releases, that they don't just release them and that's it. They're continually improving upon them. So that's been really awesome to see. What about with Commerce Edition, and I've gotten this question from some of our clients. What about WooCommerce? We talked about BigCommerce, Shopify, Amazon. WooCommerce is another sort of e-commerce solution that we see a lot of in this space. Is there sort of any options for integrating with WooCommerce?
Yeah, so WooCommerce is especially for companies that run WordPress websites. WooCommerce is typically the natural add-on if you want to add some type of e-commerce to your WordPress site. For one of the options that we typically give to our clients is really BigCommerce, because BigCommerce does have a plugin specifically for WordPress. So rather than just building your WordPress site and then integrating a WooCommerce site because you are using WordPress, BigCommerce made a plugin so that you could actually run a BigCommerce site on your WordPress site. So that's a big option for customers running WordPress sites to actually build a BigCommerce store and use it on their WordPress site. Outside of that, we typically will point you out to either an ISV solution like TrueCommerce, maybe point you out to a solution from another ISV partners, or maybe even utilizing a connector like Celigo. So there's lots of options for someone that is using a WooCommerce site and wants to integrate that directly with Acumatica.
Yeah, and I think people who are really familiar with WooCommerce are also aware that WooCommerce is so highly customizable that it's kind of tricky to sometimes integrate any WooCommerce site with any ERP, because there's so much different stuff that people tend to do in there. So that's WooCommerce is kind of always going to be a tricky situation, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what about B2B? I think you and I both touched on that a little bit, but maybe you can talk to that a little bit more as far as some of the B2B e-commerce options.
Right. So with B2B, we always start with our customer portal that's always been available for Acumatica. The customer portal allows us to, show a customer's account, show, how much they owe, what the status of their invoices are, what the status of their orders are, and then even allow customers to place orders. So if we're running a B2B business, we always have the option to add the customer portal to your Acumatica instance. That would give you instant access to being able to take orders within the system. And since the customer portal lives on the same database as your Acumatica database, anything that they enter as an order on the portal is automatically entered onto the sales order screen. So it's no syncing required. It's just automatically created. Outside of that, BigCommerce has taken the lead in trying to be the #1 integrated e-commerce platform between B2C, which is business to consumer, and B2B, which is business to business. And so over the last 6 months, they have made huge strides in acquiring technology for basically acquiring companies that have built B2B platforms on top of the BigCommerce platform itself. And so they have acquired these like bundle to, what is it? B2B, bundle to bundle or something like that. Yeah. Bundle B2B. There you go. So they've done things like that, acquiring bundle B2B. They have some other companies that they've acquired and now have all of that technology integrated within BigCommerce, and naturally that information is able to sync with Acumatica. So it's quite nice to see where bundle B2B has gone as being a partner of BigCommerce, now being part of BigCommerce. and then some other things that they have made as initiatives for this year to kind of expand out that business to business capability of BigCommerce.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things, so people might be thinking, well, why would I want to, go with Bundle B2B or, go with BigCommerce versus using Acumatica's customer portal? And I think the biggest difference is going to just be visuals, right? So, the Acumatica customer portal is going to look like Acumatica screens, whereas BigCommerce is in the Bundle B2B is going to give you a little bit more flexibility with giving you sort of a hybrid of, what you would see in a typical e-commerce type screens along with your Acumatica data. Whereas the customer portal, they're kind of logging directly into Acumatica type screens. And so other options for integrating the omni-channel. I think we talked about.
Go ahead.
I just said, I think we talked about some.
We did. And so there's a lot of other things besides what we mentioned. Today we talked a lot about BigCommerce, Shopify, Amazon, we talked about WooCommerce, but there are other things like Channel Advisor. There's other e-commerce platforms like Magento. We've worked with a lot of partners on this, so there are a lot of options, especially like TrueCommerce built out their platform to allow synchronization with a lot of different platforms that are out there. Same thing with Celigo, which is basically a tool for us to integrate API to API. Other ISV solutions from BizTech to Kenzium, all of these guys have worked to kind of build products that would allow us to integrate all of these platforms with Acumatica. And we're able to do so because of the way that Acumatica has engineered their product to be able to be so open to these other platforms.
Cool. So I think that's all of the questions that we had sort of like prepared ahead of time. Let me just sort of minimize some of my 50 million windows I have going here. Sorry about this, guys. I can't get back to my sharing thing here. Sorry if it made anyone sick looking at that endless tunnel of screens for a second. So do we want to head over into the breakout session? I don't see any questions in here from the chat. So we could head over there and see if anyone has any questions.